Have you ever seen a colleague that was so stressed before a presentation that it made you stressed? Saw your child get a shot and you cringed with pain? Saw somebody in a hot sports car going down the freeway and you could feel it too? Someone was really sick and you could feel their sickness? Someone was really sad, you felt their sadness? These are all function of mirror neurons. We'll talk about those today. These neurons, which the discovery is relatively new, can increase rapport, empathy, retention, learning, and persuasion. Let's get into it.
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
Hi, welcome back. Kurt Mortensen here, podcast 514, as we get into mirror neurons, increasing similarity, when does foot in the door backfire, and of course, the Geeky Scarly article, and the Blinja of the week. So good to have you back. Tell your family and friends and enemies about the podcast. Go to MaximizeYourInfluence.com. This podcast can be found at iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, YouTube, Spotify, you name it, it's there. Please leave us feedback. That really helps us out. You can reach me at Kurt, K-U-R-T, at MaximizeYourInfluence.com. If we use anything you suggest on the show, from an article to an idea to a topic to a bad joke, you get the gold version of InfluenceUniversity.com. Check it out. There's also a free version of InfluenceUniversity.com for those that are just getting started. Hope everyone's having an awesome week. You're achieving your goals. You're becoming more persuasive. You're keeping the score, meaning you know how many people you're persuading every day, that it's going up, that you're improving, you're getting better, you're closing more sales. More people are saying yes. If you're in leadership, you're getting less resistance. We all persuade and influence for a living. That's a critical life skill. In fact, Napoleon Hill, hopefully you've read his books, especially Think and Grow Rich, he said persuasion's the magic ingredient. Basically, as I like to say, to get others to want to do what you want them to do and like doing it. So let's dive into our persuasion blinja. Now you get to decide on this one. Is it a blunder? No, don't do that. Doesn't work. It was done wrong. Or like, no, that's good. That's a ninja. I like it. So I'm going to spell it out for you. You get to decide. This is our persuasion blinja of the week. Millions of miles I've flown in my life, and I've decided I'm an aisle guy. I like to sit on the aisle. Yeah, my knees get whacked every once in a while. People do bump me, but I like the freedom to get up when I want, to spread out a little bit when I can when there's no carts in the aisle. And at times I fly with my wife, and there's this hack, and I think you probably know it, where one of us gets the window seat, the A seat. One of us gets the aisle seat, the C seat. Because nobody wants to sit in the middle. Those are usually the last to go. And sometimes, usually, depending on the time of year and the flight, nobody sits there, and then two people get the whole row, which makes it a little easier to get some work done. And it gives you more leg room and just space in general. So this was a full flight. We tried our hack. And so here she comes. She says, oh, I'm sitting right there. And we say, hey, would you rather have the window seat? And she says, no, I want the aisle seat. And it was pretty blunt, pretty in your face. This is what I want. Take it or leave it. And there are certain cultures that always negotiate. And there are certain cultures that don't negotiate enough. And I assumed she was coming from a culture that is used to negotiating. And that wasn't acceptable. We had bought our seats, said, no, that's okay. You can have the middle seat. She paused for a minute. She looked at me and says, no, if it's okay, I'll take the window. She kind of backtracked. And the ninja to me is she asked. You always ask, can I get a free tie with that? A free pair of socks? Can you upgrade that for me? Can I get a free soda with that? Just ask. I love it when people ask. You should do that this week. Just ask. Most of the time, they'll probably say no, but everyone said, sure. Have a bigger soda, have an extra patty on your burger, get some free socks with that. Some people will do that. It was the way she was asked. It was very condescending, very demanding, which does work in her culture, but other cultures it doesn't. That was the negative part. That was one of the reasons I backtracked, says, no, you can have the middle seat. And I was willing to give her the middle seat. It wasn't that long of a flight, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. I mean, if you need to soften it up, well, I appreciate that. Would it be possible for me to take the aisle? Give a reason, give a why. Don't just be making it up. Would you be willing? Could you do me a favor? Ask. Even for those that are in sales, ask. Most people aren't asking. Do you see how it'll change your life, save you money? Let's get started today. Get the agreement, get the yes. So you decide, is this a blinja, a little bit of both? Or is it pure blunder? Or is it pure ninja? Bringing us to our geeky, scarly article. This comes from the International Journal of Research and Marketing, Tilburg University, that's in the Netherlands, and Norwegian School of Management. Here's the title. Better think before agreeing twice. Be your agreement a similarity-based persuasion mechanism. All right. First of all, we got to work with these professors to get better titles. I mean, the title's like, what? Who cares? I don't want to read it. You know, it caught my attention, but I'm geeky that way. But it was trying like, well, how many big words could we fit in here? How long can we make this title? We got to work with these professors that work at these scholarly journals to come up with better clickbait, a better what's in it for me, something. That's just a side note, just thinking out loud. But basically, this study investigates how agreement affects compliance behavior. Persuasion. Participants were asked to answer a set of questions and then were presented with a request from an unknown other person. They found when participants agreed with the other person's statements, they perceived this similarity with that person, and that similarity led to higher compliance rates when other requests came from the same person. Now, if you know the laws of persuasion, this is a law of connectivity. The second piece of connectivity, building that rapport, is similarity theory. You have to find something in common with someone to spark a relationship, to develop rapport. And it could be anything from morals to we both smoke, to we both work on the same team, same company, went to the same school, like the same teams. It could be anything. In fact, I was talking to this guy who just graduated from high school. He has this best friend. They go everywhere together. I'm like, how did you guys meet? We just talking, and they didn't even know each other existed. But they were the only two boys in a dance class, similarity, connection, best friends, but that's what sparked the relationship. Although, here's what's interesting, it did backfire when the participants were reminded about their previous agreement. In other words, being mindful of their agreement prevented an increase in persuasion or compliance. You catch that? So we're like, oh, remember, you agreed. You said yes, you did this, and you pointed out it actually caused resistance. So the key is for them not to feel persuaded. Let their subconscious mind remember. You don't have to remind them. Remember when you're getting these yeses, that second yes could be in a different meeting at a different time. The key is they don't feel persuaded. Can we meet at 2:15? Oh, how about 2:30? You just persuaded them they don't care. Well, can we change the restaurant instead of Italian, Chinese? Not a big deal, but you persuaded them. Hey, can you get this for me? Can you do me a favor? Can you write this down? Everybody stand up. Everybody touch your neighbor. You can't do that one anymore. Although I remember a motivational speaker that I've trained with an old mentor with, I'll just leave it at that. Without everyone stand up, turn and rub your neighbor's shoulders. Turn to your other neighbor, rub their shoulders. I just don't think you can do that one anymore. So those little things, you've persuaded them, but they don't feel persuaded, and there's a little similarity there, increases persuasion. So when agreement occurs, that signals similarity between individuals. Remember, don't remind them. Make sure they don't feel pushed in a corner. Don't do the cheesy factor. Hey, do you live here? Do you love your children? Okay, that's pushing a little too much. Remember I talked about the guy who came up to me, do you like trees? Right, that was their connection, their similarity, their foot in the door, their yes. And I'm like, no, I hate trees. The leaves, the raking, the roots, the cutting, the trimming. Oh, man. They blocked the sunlight. And of course I was kidding, but he didn't know what to do when he walked away because you're supposed to say yes to that. So you have to balance the agreement with other persuasion techniques is also the key. This is not just a one-hit wonder. It does work, but you have to use other tools and techniques. Switch it up a little bit. Adapt to the person that you're trying to talk to. But you can find common ground by emphasizing areas of agreement. Get them to say yes. Get that connection. You can use phrases like, hey, we're both on the same page. I agree with you. Hey, we're not that far off. We want the same thing. Remind people the similarities. And this agreement can lead to perceived similarity, which increases likability. That's why in a negotiation, let's say it's a second, third, fourth meeting, review what you've agreed upon. Review your yeses. That can trigger the same similarity. You're on the same page, which can make the negotiation be much easier and go much faster. So there you have it. That's the geeky Scarly article. Which brings us to the listener email.
Oh boy!
This is from Hank. Kurt, I'm working on my perfect persuasive presentation. Awesome. Hopefully everyone's taking their presentation IQ. I'll get you some information on that here in a bit. He says, I was reading about these monkeys and mirror neurons. I was fascinated. How can I use these mirror neurons to persuade with power? For me, I need to become a closing machine. Let's talk about these monkeys. This was a team led by Giacomo Rizzolatti. I added the accent, I don't know if I'm right. This is from the University of Parma in Italy. It was a relatively recent discovery as far as the brain goes. They found these mirror neurons were specialized brain cells that were found in macaque monkeys. That's where the monkeys come in. They appeared to activate these mirror neurons. Both of the monkey performed an action itself and when they observed another monkey performing the same action. These neurons fired when the monkeys executed a movement and when they observed the same movement by another monkey or human. You see, mirror neurons allow us to understand the meaning of another's actions. When we see someone perform a specific action, these mirror neurons fire. And that's what creates that sense of similarity. We've shared an experience and a bonding. And they're saying that this is the neural basis for imitation learning that enable us to observe others and make it happen. Oh, that's how you jump. Oh, that's how you walk. Oh, that's how you change a tire. Whatever it is. You see, mirror neurons play a role in empathy. When we witness someone else's emotions, assuming you're not a psychopath and you have decent emotional intelligence EQ, our mirror neurons activate, allowing us to emphasize with their experiences. But the challenge is, they're intriguing, but it's not the whole story. It's just part of the brain. I first learned about these monkeys and these mirror neurons from the buying brain, from Dr. Pradeep. And he talks about, for example, if you're watching a commercial of someone drinking beer, Coke, Pepsi, something, it's ice cold and they're drinking it. Your mirror neurons are firing and you want it more. That's why you see in the movies, they're showing you the Coke and the carbonation and the popcorn and the butter and get your candy. That's firing the mirror neurons and you want it more. Biting into a bright red apple that makes that crisp crunch sound, that would trigger mirror neurons. When you go into a car dealership, for example, they have videos of the cars in the mountains, and that can fire mirror neurons. So Dr. Pradeep also did some studies on this, and they found that these mirror neurons, when you use them the right way, they increase involvement. People are more mentally involved, they're engaged. Remember, if they can't see themselves doing it, they can't visualize themselves doing it, it doesn't matter. It helps you become more persuasive, they connect with you more, helps in recall and retention. It triggers emotions, and we all know emotions are more persuasive than logic. You can mirror something physical, something emotional, something verbal. What's interesting, women have more active mirror neurons than men do. I'll let you decide what that means. So they're still researching these mirror neurons. It's ongoing. And it's complex. It is the brain. We've learned more about the brain the last 10 years and the last 100 years combined. Why we do what we do, what's triggering, what's going on. Remember, you can have all the facts and figures in the world, all the data, but it's below the radar. We got to persuade the emotions. We have to understand the human mind to really become great persuaders. So how do we use these? Let's talk about that. All right, we got these mirror neurons. We're understanding the brain a little bit more. How do we use these mirror neurons in persuasion cells and just to leverage our knowledge of the human brain and human tendencies? First one, stories. We talk about this all the time. Off the charts persuasion tool persuades invisible to the radar. When we hear stories, these mirror neurons go off. We're there, we're doing it, we're part of the plot, we're part of the story. It's there, it's real. I can't think of a persuasive presentation that doesn't have a story. That's why we spend so much time with it in the perfect persuasive presentation, because it is a critical skill for leadership's influence in sales. And in sales especially, having a customer testimonial, that's a story. When they can see another person using the product, mirror neurons that fires, it's easier for them to see themselves doing it. So it could be a video, a photo, a written testimonial, embedded in a story, whatever it is, top of the list, off the charts. Great way to trigger those mirror neurons. Even simple things like saying, imagine, can you visualize, put yourself in this picture, can help trigger those mirror neurons. That's why it's so important to use those testimonials, that social validation. They will always believe somebody else before they believe you. Testimonial, endorsement, recommendation, referral can all help in that situation. Another one is a product demonstration. They're seeing somebody else interact with the product. Even better, get them to interact with the product. It helps them visualize themselves doing it because they're actually doing it, or at least activating their mirror neurons of watching somebody else do it. Because they engage our visual and auditory senses. So can you put a video up? Can you do it live? Can you have them do it? Your call, you decide. I would even say in role play, watching people role play in a certain situation could also trigger those mirror neurons. Body language. We've talked a lot about on the podcast mirror and matching, isopraxism. When you can slowly mirror their body language, their gestures, we know it increases trust, increases similarity, increases rapport. There's a connection there. It happens automatically. You see two people at a gathering that have connected, they start to mirror each other. They mirror their energy, their breathing rate synchronized, their body language, take a drink at the same time, they wipe their face at the same time. They're in sync. And so what mirror and matching does is you're accelerating rapport, something that's naturally going to happen anyway. Even mirroring their facial expressions, their positive facial expressions, right? When you smile, they smile. When they show enthusiasm, you should show a little enthusiasm. So you can also mirror facial expressions, mirror emotions, and that creates a positive emotional connection, fires off those mirror neurons, increases your connection, increases trust, and opens the door for influence. So remember, there's those emotional mirror neurons. So anything you can do to create an emotional connection. Time and time again, I say it's the emotions that persuade. You still have to have the logic. It's the emotions that persuade, and when the emotions fade, they need to have the logic to justify the decision. So create that emotional connection, done through empathy and understanding. I mean, when you can show a genuine concern for their needs, when they can feel that you feel what they feel, when they really truly know that you understand what they're looking for, what they want, what their problem is, that's when that connection happens. That's what fires the mirror neurons. And we know this: active listening, empathetic responses. Really tell me more. Why do you say that? Questions. All these things can activate the mirror neurons. Creates that connection when you have that emotional empathy. So highlight the emotional benefits of your product, your service. Emphasize or show them or demonstrate how this product, this service, this solution can make the customer feel happier, more confident. It's going to solve their problem. They're going to be relieved. They're going to sleep better at night, whatever it is. These emotional pills will fire off those emotional mirror neurons. So mirror neurons, this new neuroscience, bridges learning, perception, social awareness, social cognition, and helps us understand better how to persuade and empathize and interact with other people. We can leverage the principles of mirror neurons. We're going deep, getting geeky, but this is a science. It's been simplified. You can create more engaging, relatable, persuasive interactions, and people are going to pay more attention. So remember, use more stories, more product demonstrations, mirror and matching with your body language, create that emotional connection, use more visual aids, are all things that you can do to fire those mirror neurons, to create that connection. And remember, these mirror neurons increase rapport, empathy, retention, learning, make you more likable, which makes them easier to persuade and influence. So there you have it. That's our podcast of the week. That's podcast 514. That's important because when you go to maximizeyourinfluence.com and click on podcast 514 or the email you received, that'll give you access to all the links, everything we talked about today, and the special of the week, which by popular demand is held over from last week, your presentation IQ. This is all free. So take your presentation IQ assessment. Go to presentationiq.com or just click on 514. Take the assessment. It's 10 questions. Helps me with my research, helps you understand, hey, I'm pretty good here. I need to work with this because anybody can inform, but are you influential? That's the key to your success. Not just presenting, but being persuasive. So it'll take you a few minutes, fill it out, and for doing that, I'll give you my free seminar video of the perfect persuasive presentation. There's download, there's charts, there's formulas, Everything you need to do to create and deliver the perfect persuasive presentation. Check it out. But do leave us some feedback about the podcast. That helps us out. Start understanding mirror neurons. Use the application I talked about today. You can become a better negotiator, better leader. You can influence invisible to the radar, and you can go out and persuade with power.